Welcome, everybody, to Extra Time, driven by Continental, your number one Major League Soccer podcast and video show, of course. I am David Goss, and joined by, I guess I'll call them my partners in soccer, Matt Doyle and Calen Carr. We are digitally joined right now as we are working from home. We're finally back. No show last week, but we are back. Of course, so much going on around the world, both in Major League Soccer, but of course, larger than that. And we want you guys to know we will be here for you. This is our first show of the week. We are coming to you twice a week, every week now. So we are back. We are ready to go. We are here for you. And we are here for you in every way we can be. We're going to bring this show to you because, quote unquote, we're professionals. Doyle, less much when he's here. Calen is the most professional person I know. And clearly I can't even speak English, but we're here for you on this show, and we're here for you outside of this. We are here for silly conversations. We're going to debate silly things and Major League Soccer history, the best players of all time, the best teams of all time, our favorite goals, all those things. So send us all your mailbags. We've been in the mailbag. We've been on Twitter all weekend grabbing your stuff for this show. We're going to go through a lot of it here today. And so the show will go on. We're going to try and entertain you guys as much as we can over the course of these next few weeks, just to take your mind off of things a little bit. You guys are part of this community. We're all part of this community. We're here for you. Anders, our producer from Sweden, will be on Twitter all the time if you need someone to yell at or throw things off of or throw crazy MLS questions out there. Who do you think your club's Mount Rushmores are? Who are your favorite teams of all time? What's the seasons that pop up in your head? Let us know what you think. Andrew is off today, but he will be back. So we are going to carry on as the three of us. I can promise a few things. One, the sweatpant ratio on this show will go way up over the next few weeks. I'm assuming Doyle doesn't even have a pair of pants in the rotation anymore that has a button on it.
Correct.
I didn't think the extra time fashion could get worse over time, but I think this is we may be reaching new levels.
Boys, we are in my wheelhouse with this. I gotta tell you.
Doyle is literally in the armchair full time for the next few weeks to do. You'll learn a lot about our apartments. You'll learn a lot about our families and our friends that are quarantined with us and in these
Doyle,
spaces.
where are the cats?
The cats right now. One of them is sleeping in the closet, which is her favorite space, and the other one is staring out the window. Oh, actually, he just fell asleep too. So we might have a cat-free show this time, but I suspect they're going to be regulars over the next however long we end up doing social distancing podcasting.
So we'll continue to do this, as I said, twice a week, and we'll try and come to you more often in any way we can. I wanted to say two things besides my sweatpants comment off the top. One is I spent all of yesterday watching every goal from the 2006 World Cup. I have been to 3 World Cups myself, and it reminded me of the global nature of this community and how we're all there for each other, the people that I've met from coast to coast in the US and Canada, going to MLS games. I have been to every MLS stadium, one home game, except for Vancouver. So whenever this is done, I'm getting myself to Vancouver, but I've still met some amazing people. And I think no matter how this plays out and whatever happens, we all have to remember the great things that happen when we all come together and the great things that we can create. And we are all there for you is the second thing. As I said, you can tweet at the Extra Time account. My DMs are always open. I don't even know how to close them. So if you're feeling lonely, if you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling like you just need to go on and tell someone, I actually think Raheem Edwards could still make it through as a top-level winger, I'm here for you. I'm here to talk to you, and I think everyone else can say the same. So we're going to keep talking soccer, and we're going to keep BSing and talking about anything you want us to talk about at Extra Time on Twitter, extratime@mlssoccer.com for the email, at Folge if you have any other complaints, FOLG on Twitter as well. It's been an interesting few days in life. It's been an interesting few weeks. It will continue to be. Do you guys have anything you want to say off the top?
You made a good point talking about how this is a global game and a global community, and we've seen over the past couple of weeks and months, depending on where you're from, and good luck and our thoughts are with you to all our friends in China and in Italy and other places that are getting very hard hit by this. But it's a sense of shared sacrifice and duty to your fellow man. We this pandemic is going to hit certain groups hard, and you have to, just because you're feeling well doesn't mean that you can't be a vector for this. So please follow all the precautions that are being recommended by the World Health Organization and by the CDC. I called it social distancing at the top. It's not social distancing, right? It's physical distancing. So keep your distance physically, but every morning I'm going through my text, and I'm texting a friend that I haven't talked to in a while, just to be in touch with people and let folks know that they're not alone. Stuff like that is going to help. It's going to be crucial, and we have to do it. We have to do it because we've seen the pictures of how Italy's healthcare system and Iran's healthcare system have been overwhelmed. And it's a real worry that could happen here as well. So everyone, it's not just someone else's responsibility. It's all our responsibilities together. And please take it seriously.
Yeah, I would just echo what Doyle was saying. And, to your point, a lot of the most vulnerable are the ones that are going to be hurt the most. And MLS has always done a good job in all the supporters, communities that I've traveled around to see as far as looking out for each other, especially the most vulnerable. And a part of that is to follow the precautions that have been recommended right now, including staying at home. So that's something, hopefully, the sooner we can all commit to doing that, the sooner we can, whenever that is, come back together and sort of celebrate in the way that we've used to around the beautiful game. And then also just learning to adapt. And this podcast is, I guess, a pretty good example of that, as far as, it is really lovely to see your guys' faces today. And this is a new way of communicating for all of us, as far as how I communicate with family members or friends, and different ways of, getting together and still being able to talk about soccer and things that really still connect us and bind us. So yeah, it's definitely a work in progress, I think, for everybody. But I think this is a good example of trying to find different ways to kind of like stay together and keep working through it.
I think you guys hit it on the head. Of course, the game's postponed in Major League Soccer for now, with the intention to be rescheduled. You can go to MLSsoccer.com. You can go to @MLS on Twitter to get updated information on that as it goes along and as what will happen. And as Doyle mentioned, all those countries, I know we have listeners that email in and tweet at us from Scandinavia, from Hungary, from Italy, from Japan, from Australia, Uruguay, Mexico, across the US and Canada. So our thoughts go out to all of you, and let us know how it's going for you and what your stories are and what you guys are thinking about and what you guys want to talk about as we go along. But let's get into some soccer, I guess you could call it. And we're just going to run through a lot of really good tweets that we got. We're going to start with Corey Engelmeyer, and he's out for blood, and I appreciate it. With the rash of offseason foot injuries at ETR, should we start calling for the trainer's head, or is it on the head coach for their conditioning program? Doyle, you're one who likes to get into this.
Yeah, who else had a foot injury besides me? Weeby sprained his ankle last year. Are we really holding producer Chris responsible for Weeby's sprained ankle last year and then my incident this offseason?
I don't know. I heard on the deep Reddit pages there's some conspiracies out there.
It has been physically. It's been a tough year for the ETR gang. I will say that.
I sprained my MCL.
Okay.
I sprained my MCL, so knee injury issues. It's been a slow rebuild. Some could blame the trainer. Some, like the person in the room next to me, my girlfriend, would blame the person who's supposed to be doing their physical therapy more often at home. But it's all out there. Who knows? Calen, obviously, head injury history, so there's nothing anyone can do about that. But I appreciate the hat on while at home to keep you safe.
Yeah, listen, there's no haircuts these days, so who knows what's happening under there.
What's scary is now that we've gone onto Skype, I look more like Doyle, and it's really been a frightening 25 minutes of learning about this for me.
This is your future right here, David.
It's my present. It's my present. That's even worse. Casey Conklin on Twitter.
Can I ask a quick question, by the way, since we're going through the appearance thing? Is this your normal setup at the crib, Goss? For the podcasters, I'm seeing about, you've got, how many MLS kits do you have there?
So I would like to say that in a movement for unity, I have put all three Canadian teams next to each other directly, hanging through my open breakfast bar. I don't know what you call that. So I've got Pedro Morales, Vancouver, Laurent Simon, Montreal, and a signed TFC Colin Warner jersey. Boom.
Colin Warner.
Yeah, legend.
All right.
And then I've got LAFC, Portland, and Minnesota. Portland and Minnesota were just sent to me, so I appreciate that. Both Kevin Acevedo and Eric Durkee, who I already apologize to. And LAFC, I need as many black jerseys as I can get, Calen, because when I go on vacation, I like to do walking tours and I sweat a lot. So I steal as many black MLS kits as I can get when I'm in the office.
This is a good year for you, then. I feel like there's a lot of dark jerseys around this year.
Inter Miami hit me up.
The new Red Bull
I'm
jersey
here for
too.
you. Yeah, the new Red Bull jersey. I'm working on it.
Calen, I got to ask you, are you locked in the Brooklyn Museum? Is that where you're podcasting from right now?
Yes. It's just a couple of my pieces behind me. Yeah, I was inspired.
Right,
I've been following Alejandro Bedoya's unboxing of fancy art, and I figured I would have to try and do my best to live it up. Yeah.
Is this your aesthetic, or is this your better half?
It's a joint project, but it's a joint project. But I would say, some of these pieces are mine. Let's see. We've got some Aboriginal art right here. So
nice. Actually, I'm actually going to ask you more about that offline because I'm kind of fascinated. So thank you.
Cool. Doyle, there's no such thing anymore as offline.
That's true.
Everything is happening in public space at all times digitally. So feel free if we get to a point where you have time that you could ask that. Casey Conklin wants to know, can we get a BSI the podcast versus Extra Time FIFA tournament streamed live on Twitch?
That's
I am terrible at FIFA.
I was about to say, we're about to get smoked.
Generally speaking, the further away you are from a active playing career, the worse your FIFA game is. And I'd say by age too. So the BSI guys are a little bit on the older side, and some of them have kids too. So I think that would be maybe against them. I feel like I could do it, but I'd like to call in Keel possibly to help us out.
Keel's part of the ETR rotation.
Yeah.
We had Doyle on last year, and I think he might be a temporary part-time host. So maybe he'll show up and help out a little bit as well. I think at this point we're allowed to do whatever we want. Because
it will be interesting, though. I mean, I've seen a lot of MLS teams. I watched Ray Gaddis play against Mark McKenzie on FIFA the other night. And
so just by age, McKenzie must have had a big advantage there.
Oh, yeah, he won. Yeah.
Ray Gaddis, the top.
I think actually he hasn't been in residency, but I was going to say if you've ever been in a residency program, your FIFA skills are probably through the roof too.
Well, YSC now is the Philadelphia Union residency program, so there's probably some skills going on there. I'm pretty sure the Revs and the Timbers actually broadcast a full 90-minute FIFA matchup between the two teams.
I saw that. Yeah, that's
in place of their game. Shout out to Calen Knapp and Willie Whitelaw for getting that done. Lots of good stuff going on, so make sure to keep interacting with your teams. Josh Lafferty here, who's ready to get into the soccer that we have seen. And he says, Doyle, now that we've had 2 weeks to see the teams, Extra Time should do a whole new prediction show. I'd be curious to see how much things have changed. So I think one of our plans over the next few weeks is to take what we did in our pre-season show, where we hit each team for about 3 or 4 minutes, and expand on that now that we have a ton of time. So we're going to do, 10 or 12 minutes on each team, not just this season, which we will do, preview and what we've seen, but Mount Rushmores for your team, who are your favorite players, favorite moments, all those things, favorite chants, favorite supporter section moments. So all of those things. So send them to us. I think we're going to start with our first 3 on Thursday. Send us what you want us to talk about with your team and what you think. Doyle, does anything big pop up in terms of your preseason standings and anything that would have changed over these few weeks?
I have to admit I'm pretty shook about the Galaxy. I thought that when Zlatan left and they had a more mobile and active center forward, and obviously a smaller one, they would be able to transition pretty easily into a different style of play. And the fact that they're actually crossing the ball more to Chicharito than they were to Zlatan, even when he's going 1v4 in the box, and they're just knock the ball around a little bit, guys. So I'm actually shook, especially because the criticism with this kind of aligns with the criticisms that Boca Juniors fans were lobbing at Schelotto, sort of on his way out the door. Now, on his way out the door, after leading Boca Juniors to the final of the Copa Libertadores. So chances are he's more than cross a lot coach, but like the way they play hasn't changed, and the things that he's saying after the games hasn't changed. And like after 2 games, Galaxy fans are livid. So I am inclined, if there's one team to maybe read too much into after 2 games, it's maybe the Galaxy.
Calen,
everybody thought they were going to be better this year, right?
No,
so
absolutely.
I had them locked in as number 2 with the assumption they would sign a center back. Like the belief that they would. That hasn't happened yet.
The issue to me hasn't been the back line. It's been
at all.
Yeah, it's been the attack, which was the one part where you're like, oh, well, we'll score a ton of goals and they still might give up a bunch of goals. But it actually has been the lack of chance creations. I think Chicharito had 2 shots in his 2 games.
Yeah, neither on target.
Neither on target. And the opportunities really haven't come for him. So that would be the first sort of, I agree with Doyle. That was be the big surprise. Of course, only 2 games, so not a huge sample size there to be able to have time to even really work things out. And then, of course, Joseph Martinez, Atlanta United. That was the big shock of the first couple of matches, and the way that Atlanta United is always up there for favorites in the East and MLS overall, for whether it's Supporter Shield or whether it's MLS Cup or any cup competition in particular. So that was the other big shock to me that you couldn't have known going into preseason predictions, of course.
Yeah, I think that one makes a ton of sense, and we're going to learn a lot more, of course, going forward. Brendan Creed on Twitter, we've gotten a few of these. I think we're going to work to put together a list, but I think some of you guys have been doing this. But could you put together a list of must rewatch games from the years that's available online and on various platforms? FS1 is re-showing games. They just showed the Philly LAFC game from a week ago. That was incredible. They're re-showing games live on television as well as the Beckham documentary. We've got games coming on MLS's website. You, of course, still have access to ESPN Plus for those of you that pay for it. I will say off the top, because you mentioned Atlanta, one of the games that pops out to me as a great MLS game was Decision Day 2017 when Toronto went down to Atlanta and Javinko hit the free kick and drank the beer. That was one of those moments, I think I've said this before on the show, where I was like, wow, this league's gotten good. Like I was there, the speed of play, the intensity, the quality at every position. That's one of those games that really stood out to me. And another one is Columbus's win over Red Bulls in 2015 Eastern Conference Final when
DWP hit the post right at the end. Yeah,
and Anatola Bong, I think, as well.
Yes, yeah. I had some Anatola Bong stock.
Yes, you definitely did. Who comes out with everyone else? What comes up, or any ideas that come up for you guys?
You want to go, Calen?
Well, I don't know. I mean, we've been streaming. Doyle, we were just talking about this yesterday because we've been streaming some of the old, actually some of the best matches from the first couple weeks. So there was the FC Dallas and Montreal match was streaming on YouTube yesterday, and Doyle, Susanna, and I were going back and forth in the comments about Ricardo Pepi and how he was projecting for the season. Ton of promise, of course, but we were sort of texting as well about being, hey, what other games could we stream that would be really cool? And I think eventually we will be able to maybe stream some older matches. The TFC Montreal playoff match in Toronto was, actually both legs was crazy. I don't know. I think there are so many like amazing matches. I would even want to go further back and watch like early DC United versus like Miami Fusion match, or Doyle, you'd have to go through the particulars of which match. But
we're actually going to be doing some of that.
Really? I thought it would be really cool to do like a like 2007 MLS Cup final between New England and Houston, commentated on by Taylor Twellman and Stu Holden. So I don't know how to make that work, but something like that would be pretty cool to watch. So it's a time to get creative, try some stuff. I think, go back, and also a chance maybe to learn a little bit more about the history of the league.
What was the best game that you were a part of as the Dynamo? With the Dynamo, rather.
Like
SKC?
best game as far as like what create
like the one where you were playing in it, and like, was there a moment you looked around and you're like, wow, this is like some stuff is happening here? Because you guys had some like knockdown drag out fights with Sporting KC.
Yeah, it'd have to be a Sporting Kansas City game. I think playing in 2012 Eastern Conference semifinal, I believe, against Sporting at home. We went up early, actually in the first half, with Adam Moffat just hit a rocket from like 35 yards out. And if you watch the slow motion replay, I'm standing next to Aurelian Calen, and the ball like whizzes by me, and I kind of like barely have any time to move to it, but it just like, it almost takes my head off. And I'm wearing a helmet too. And I'm just like, whoa. And we turn, and I just like, you can see the slow motion reaction of everyone on the field of just like, did that just happen? And Adam Moffat scored goals like that. I was looking at the Philly goal in against LAFC, and I was thinking
the Glassness goal.
Yeah, the Glassness goal. Where you're like, who smacks a ball? I was like, Adam Moffat is somewhere like, tipping his hat to that right now, because he. But I mean, just like the back and forth, because I remember Aurelian Calen was on me that game, and really every game. But like, he would like kick you and be like. He would kick you and then help you up and ask if you were okay, and then just kick you again. And you'd be like, are we friends or are we? What's going on? But so I tried to avoid him, but finally I kind of skinned him pretty good down the sideline and got a crossover to Will Bruin, who scored the second goal, which ended up helping us to go through. And I remember like jogging back, and I gave him a little pat on the butt and was like, I didn't do anything. Like at that point, I was never going to trash talk him, because if you play that game with Aurelian, like he's going to win. But that was fun. We're like sort of behind the scenes, having a little bit of banter. So all those series with those guys.
No, we absolutely have to get that game on the YouTube channel now. Calen Carr's greatest hits, man.
We got to get Calen a chain that just says "Ballers will ball." Nothing you can do about it. Calen, I have one. I can't remember the exact matchup.
I'm going to interrupt real quick, just so you guys know. Taquito was biting me that whole time, like going hard on my hand, Aurelian Cullen style, I think. But he's gone.
It's all fair game.
Calen, what I was going to say is I have a vivid memory of a like Saturday afternoon Univision game right when Temo came. Maybe it was trying to get into the playoffs or something, where like it became a Liga MX game and no one was defending, and it was just like two ends. And I just remember it being absolute chaos. I think he did the butt trap in that game.
Well, my favorite one, his first game actually we played in a friendly against Celtic at Toyota Park in Bridgeview. And
there must have been beer at that game between Cuauhtémoc Blanco fans and Celtic in Chicago. They sold one or two beers at that game.
It was wow. I could actually go get my Celtic jersey from I think I have it. Hold on one second. I'll be right back.
Oh, man. Hey, now we're going to find out, Doyle, where all the players always put those jerseys they trade.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking at this Aboriginal art now, man.
Who's on the back?
Wild.
Hey, Charlie went to the bathroom, right? So it's all This is Kit.
Who's on it?
It's Presley. I think it was one of the center backs.
Never heard of him.
Anyway, I probably should have got. There was probably like, I don't know, some baller I should have gotten. But Blanco played his greatest hits in that game. It was basically like he did the bunny hop, he did a butt pass, like a ball flew up straight out of the air, and he just like turned around and did a butt pass to somebody. He chipped the goalkeeper. He hit the crossbar a couple times. It was like a YouTube compilation, and I was like, oh wow, this is gonna be a fun ride.
And the Rockstar trip began. So if anyone has any games that they want us to try and get on, if anyone else has any games they think of, send us our way at Extra Time, of course, Extra Time at MLSsoccer.com. This one I don't think we're going to do today, but we got a lot of good stuff that we'll bring up so other people can send in ideas, and we'll do them over the next few weeks. ETR expansion team from Freehold United. You each get a franchise. You hold a joint press conference to announce city, name, crest, colors, kit sponsor, and your first designated playing signing. and 1 expansion draft pick for each club. I think we got to do this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That sounds awesome. I like that.
Yeah, so we'll work on a graphic designer to get us some crests.
Can I just
color.
go straight away and just before anybody takes anybody, can I go Team Hawaii? You got to go Team Hawaii.
Yeah,
right?
Right.
The old NASL team from the 70s, you bring them back.
Yeah.
I might go with their rebrand because Team Hawaii is like cool, but there's a soccer store there that could maybe be a kit sponsor called Paradise Soccer Club. So I kind of like that, Paradise SC. So that would be my pick. Then you have to hire Brian Ching as the team president, GM, mascot, surf instructor, yoga instructor.
Does Bobby Wood have to be your first designated player?
That would make a lot of sense. But I think we might even go younger. I mean, Shandon Hopiau's out in the Sounders organization. Maybe Zach Scott could come back. I know he's from Maui originally. So there's a bunch of Hawaii. Yeah, there's a bunch of Hawaiian representation across MLS.
I thought Zach Scott was like...
We could pick up an NWSL franchise as well too. I think there's there's some really good Hawaiian women's players. Who's the what's her name? She was like a legend. She played way back in the day.
Well, I don't know. That means different things to different people in this chat right now. So I don't know. Way back in the day, clearly Calen Cartho's burner account is at Freehold United because he was really prepared for this question we had not discussed.
I think just any Hawaiian team, that's the way to go.
Now, Calen, of course, you'd be hands-on, right? Like you'd move to Hawaii, be a hands-on owner, be at buying beer for the supporters. Yeah, I respect that. Yeah, it's tough for people.
Spam Masubi snacks at halftime, for sure.
I respect you going out of your way, Calen, to bring the fans what they need. Natasha Kai is what producer Anders thinks is the name. Yeah.
Thank you.
Also, he's messaging me about former Celtic players named Presley, which I don't care about as much. But he thinks it's Stephen Presley, 32 caps for Scotland.
There you go.
Is that your Scottish accent?
Yeah, I don't know. I sounded like Sean Connery, right?
No.
Whiskery turn up on.
You guys aren't going to make the pick for an expansion team. You're not. You need more time.
You just jumped the line, man.
Calen had his cash up front, so he was able to get.
I need time to think. I need to do some background on the market and figure out the colors.
No, Doyle, it's got to be Hartford.
No, definitely not.
What?
My first instinct was that I was going to have to fight Calen to death for Berkeley, but we'll see. I'm going to revisit this at a later date. I need to really put some thought into this. Do it right.
Yeah, I'm going to do the same. But my first designated player signing would be probably Steven Appia because I watched the 2006 World Cup highlights yesterday, and he was a baller, and it was really depressing at moments to watch for the U.S. Yeah. But just throwing that out there, I don't know anything else on mine. Whiskey Turnup. What is your earliest memory of the league? I remember as an 11 or 12-year-old copying the standings out of the newspaper into a journal and taking it to soccer practice where we replayed the epic end of game shootouts.
What do you remember, David? Because you're younger than Calen.
Mine's not as far back as you guys. I'd say my oldest specific MLS memory is like 2004 final because I knew who Beasley and Donovan were coming out of 2002. I think 06 qualifying was where I really got into soccer, watching the U.S. national team. So I had started to then move into MLS, watching guys week in and week out. So I remember the 04 final at Home Depot Center. Does that sound right at the time? That's what it was called?
Yeah, it was
yeah, and then I'd say 05.
Ramirez's goal?
No, that was 05. 04 was the definitely not a handball from Aleko Eskandarian that our good friend Jimmy Conrad is definitely not still upset about.
I thought I started to going back and forth on Twitter. Yeah,
and Bertiaga had a banger in that one, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
One of the great all-time MLS Cup goals.
Yeah. And then I'd say 05, I went to my first game. It was Chicago Metro Stars at Giant Stadium. So those are like my older memories.
I was probably at that game.
I think it was a double header with England, Colombia.
Then I was definitely not at that game.
Beckham was there.
Take us back, Doyle. We're ready.
Yeah, Doyle, give it to us.
I remember a time before MLS, so I remember. Yes, I don't remember that far back. I do remember the original NASL folding in '84, but I remember starting to get really into soccer with the '90 World Cup, and then trying to figure out why we didn't have a league the same way that England and Italy and Germany did, and then getting really excited in '94 for the, by the time '94 came, I was a full-on soccer fan, and I was just dying to have something beyond the old A-League, which I believe it was called the A-League at that time. And I mean, I remember the announcement when MLS was, won the bid to become the top flight league in the US. And then, of course, I remember the first game. I was in college. It's my freshman year in college for the inaugural game, which is April 6th, 1996. And it was San Jose versus DC. And it was me and a bunch of friends. I was actually friends with a couple of guys on the soccer team, and all in the common room of our dorm watching that game, which, to be fair, had a lot of talent, but they were playing just a lot of long ball and a lot of back and forth in midfield and just clearing the hell out of it, because nobody wanted to be the one who made a mistake that led to the first goal. And we were all kind of bummed getting towards the end, oh, this is going to be 0-0. It's going to be such an anticlimax. And then Ronaldo gets on the ball on the left wing, not even the left wing, kind of the left side of the box, and he nutmegs poor Jeff Agus and curls it still absolute wonderful goal for the 1-0. We went crazy in in the dorm. That was dope. That stuck with me, man. It stuck with a lot of people.
Yeah, actually, I've had some time to think about that. I remember '94 World Cup similarly. I guess you were talking about '90, but '94. I remember my mom took me to a game, and I went to see U.S. play Brazil at Stanford Stadium, and I remember just being I remember more outside the stadium than inside, all the canary Brazilian yellow jerseys and people kind of dancing and partying and playing pickup soccer. And I just remember being I don't know what this is, but I want in on this. And then, I actually went to that first game, Doyle, the opener at Spartan Stadium. And I remember I worked at
mic drop.
One up. Yeah, watch out. But I remember going, and I worked that whole first year or two. I would go down often with my buddy Diego, and we would work the soccer celebration outside the stadium. And it would be all these things where you dribble through the cones and you shoot. I think they would count how fast how hard your shot was, which is before all of these. I think we still do that, by the way, right?
Yes, we do.
Okay. But you could do it outside the stadium, but if you worked the soccer celebration, you would get a free ticket into the match at the end. So you'd have to help break down, so you'd miss the beginning of the game. But I remember getting in for that first match and going back a fair amount to see that Clash team play. That would be my first, early memories. But crazy to think that we're all here so much further later, and get to kind of hold on to those.
I'd say when I got into it, I felt like a newcomer, and I didn't really know the history, and that's 15 years ago at this point. It's the 25th season. This is how far we've come. Not for this show, Doyle, but I would like to know if there's any players from those UConn teams, because UConn mid-90s, there must have been some good players in those groups that came forward.
There were some real good players. The one who went on to have the best MLS career was the late great Bobby Ryan, but there were a bunch of others as well, and it was good soccer. But being able to watch the league grow and understanding those first 5 years, it was kind of proof of concept, and then being really afraid basically every year until 2004 expansion that any day could be the league's last. From that, it's I know it's been 2 decades, but it feels like whiplash. I grew up in a time where you worried there was not going to be professional soccer in the U.S. Or top flight professional soccer in the U.S. And to be here now, even in the midst of the difficulties facing the world at this moment, it feels like a lot has been done, and a lot more is coming.
I was about to say, all 6 of these jerseys are expansion teams since those moments you talked about. It's amazing how the league's growing. We have a ton of great questions. We don't have a ton of time left as we need to go and allow our producers to learn how to put this show together and get it out there in this new format. So we promise we will come to you longer as we can over the next few weeks. A few of them that I want to throw at you guys to think about and marinate on, and I want people to email us as well. Michael Carstner here had one that said, do a draft of all players to fill either an 11 or an 18. You can only pick 3 DPs, but the rest of the salary cap is irrelevant. So I think we should get together and put together our fantasy teams, but no one can double up on any players. Calen, since you find a way to sneak in first, I assume you're going to get Vela with the first pick, and then we can all move on from there.
Not a bad start, yeah.
But it's something to think about out there. Here's one a little more specific to now. At MLS_live said, when healthy, do the Revs have what it takes to win big games?
I don't know. I still think you need to either have a really, really good spine or just an overwhelming attacking advantage to win big games in the biggest moments against the best teams. And we saw those 2 things last year with LAFC, who it certainly was not like they were a bad defensive team. In fact, they were the best defensive team in the regular season. But the way they won big games when they won them was just by being the greatest attacking juggernaut this league has ever seen. And then the flip side was Seattle. And Seattle is certainly not a bad attacking team by any stretch. But if you think about that Seattle team really of the last 5 years, it's Ladero, but it's also that spine and the ability to, put up a shutout or allow 1 goal in those big games. That's what has gotten them what they need. So with the Revs, I don't think they have that spine. Maybe that changes. Maybe Bruce Arena is able to get improvement from some of the. He's already put a lot of trust in Henry Kessler, who had a good first 2 games, and their attacking advantage is not overwhelming the way it is for LAFC or it was for Atlanta United in their great couple years either. They seem to me like a team that, unless something changes in terms of how good their wingers are or how good their defensive midfielders are, tops out at around 55, 56 points and like a good showing in the playoffs. But I don't think at this point I see a higher ceiling than that.
All right. We've got a lot more time to talk about this, but that's a good intro from Doyle. I want to hit 2 more before we get out of here, but we're going to be quick. The first one is Benny Feilhaber just recently retiring. Will he be a sporting legend? He's played for many other clubs in his 15 years of playing, but he did a lot for the club. And if not, who's above him? We're going to do some Mount Rushmores for teams going forward. So think about that. I did a quick little Sporting KC one. I think the ironclad names on there at this point are Beasler, Preki, and Peter Vermees. There's a 4th spot open. I don't think Benny Feilhaber gets that for Mount Rushmore. I think that's between, you've got Davy Arnaud, you've got Zusi, you've got Roger, you've got Tony Miola, you've got Karius Vagnon. I think some of those guys are above him, but I think his career will be associated with Sporting KC. I think the fans will celebrate him. So I think he's definitely a SKC guy now that he's retired. But we're going to talk about stuff like that going forward. So keep sending us questions on different guys or your thoughts for your clubs, and we'll put them all together. And last one to close out on here is Sean Lopez from Belmont. He'd say, I'd love to see Extra Time doing some fun stuff, making some all-time teams, theme teams, etc., speculating deeply about how an MLS All-Star team would do in a full season of the English Premier League. There are a lot of themes 11. Here were some of his ideas. 1, best names. Captain Christian Dahomey, obviously. Number 2, by region. For example, Caribbean MLS players versus North American, African-based MLS players versus Europe, all of those things. Best technical 11. Best 11 under 25 versus over 25, which I think is a really good one that we could get into. these are the type of things we've got time for as we go forward. So everyone send us your thoughts. What do you want to see? What do you want to hear? And we are going to do deep dives on these teams. We're doing this mailbag episode for the first one, just so everybody can get their bearings and see some pretty and familiar faces. But we are going to have more structure. And this is still the league that we all love, and there will be games again at some point. And we're going to make sure that everybody's prepared. Everybody knows what's happened. Everybody knows what's coming. This is the place. This is Doyle's clean spot. I'm going to finish on this last one, which is, you've all seen videos coming from Spain and Italy of people in quarantine out singing from their balconies and all that. So I've got a back porch. I'm going to go out and teach the riot to everyone in Brooklyn Heights. So if you hear, we're here for RSL coming across your airwaves, coming across social media, that's David Goss. That's what I'm doing here for the good of the community. For Matt Doyle, for Calen Carr, producing Anders, for Andrew Wiebe, who'll be back. Chris, Karen, everyone, thanks so much for tuning in for this one. We will be back on Thursday. We will be back over and over again. Wash your hands. Warm water. Get some food. Make sure that you are prepared. And don't forget, we are here for you if you need anything. So hit us up on social media. And, of course, keep downloading and keep watching. And with that, thanks for listening today. And have a good one, everyone.